Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another Lunch and Learn in our ongoing Financial Friday series. Saney's is excited to offer these sessions in cooperation with our corporate partner, Equitable Advisors. Equitable has a long-standing presence in New York, and a large portion of Equitable's New York client base is built upon the work they do within the public education system. Through Equitable, Saney's members can receive competitive insurance rates and a full array of retirement services, including a complimentary financial profile for Saney's members, which we urge you to take advantage of because it's a great benefit. Our Equitable presenter today is Kelly DeMay, Senior Vice President, Northern Complex. Before we get started, please note that participants are muted during the session, but we will have some Q&A time following the presentation. If you have a question, just type it in the Q&A panel. We're also recording the session and it'll be available at saneys.org within a few days. And with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Kelly.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. Today, obviously, I'm covering Social Security and what it means in maximizing those Social Security benefits. A lot of meat to Social Security, and there's a lot of opinions to Social Security as well. So my goal today is to give you some more insight about the moving parts and just putting you in a position so that when it comes time to collect Social Security benefits, you can be informed and educated about how things work. As mentioned, at the end, I will save a few minutes for Q&A. Okay, so what I'm going to go through today is understanding the value of Social Security, different types of benefits, other factors which can be a part of Social Security, taxation, how to collect your Social Security benefits, and then just the resources component. So to give you a little bit of background, Social Security was created in 1935, and in 2020, about 65 million Americans were collecting on their Social Security benefit. One of the common things that comes up related to Social Security is people say, like, is it going to be there? What's going to happen to it? One of the realities is since 1935, when Social Security was invented or created, if you will, there's actually been very few changes to the program. Now, in some ways, that's a good thing. People are collecting more money and getting more out of the program as far as their own personal benefit. But the bad thing is that's caused some concern related to the longevity of the program, which I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes. 9 out of 10 or 90% of people over the age of 65 are collecting those Social Security benefits. And the benefit of Social Security is it's guaranteed income for the rest of someone's life that is inflation adjusted with benefits that continue on for spouse and dependents under certain circumstances. So it does have this guaranteed component to the benefit that's very attractive, all things considered. Now, Social Security actually has 3 areas that it can focus on. Retirement benefits. Now, that's obviously what most people are familiar with. Are you collecting your Social Security? When are you going to collect? What do you think about collecting in retirement? That's probably 95% of the conversation surrounding Social Security. But Social Security is actually much bigger than that. It covers spousal and survivor benefits. So that means that additionally, above and beyond retirement, there's benefits in certain situations. If people were married because they were married to someone else, there's intrinsic Social Security benefits there, as well as survivor benefits to surviving spouses or dependent children in the event that the Social Security or the person who had contributed to it passes away prematurely. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of information out there about how to leverage those moving parts. So let's talk about the 101 of how Social Security works. Now, give you a little bit of background. The page on the right-hand side is a Social Security statement. You probably have seen it, and you probably are thinking to yourself, you know what, I used to get those, but I haven't seen one in a while. That's correct. The Social Security Department used to send this out to mail it to people every year. And then about 10 years ago, they stopped doing it. And then so you can only get this benefit package online if you logged into ssa.gov. And then about 5 years ago, they started to send it via mail again but it was in black and white. They stopped printing it in color, and it was only mailed out every 5 years. So you probably used to see it. You're not seeing it nearly as much anymore. That is totally normal. However, if you go to the website ssa.gov and create a username and password, that website is probably, in my opinion, one of the best designed websites that exists out there. It was designed for people who are maybe not as technology savvy. So it's a really simple, easy to use mainframe. Now, the negative about the website, or the positive, depending on how you want to look at it, it's like Fort Knox. You have to get, a hieroglyph, a blood of a virgin, like it is hard to get in, but it's rightfully sensitive. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but you're going to want to make sure you write down your username and password, because retrieving it is not a simple thing to do. So I would encourage every single person on this call to go to that ssa.gov website and create your username and password, as there's a wealth of information there. Now, how Social Security is determined for retirement, survivor benefits, anything like that, is based on someone's best 35 earnings years. The earnings record is on page 3 of the packet. And some people get very frustrated. If you look at the example on the screen, they're like, in 1996, I made $635. That's nothing. I'm not going to get anything in Social Security. But when someone goes to collect their Social Security benefit, regardless of the reason, Social Security adjusts all those years, prior years, to be in today's dollars. So they would inflate all of those numbers. So some of you are probably thinking, well, in 1984, when I got my first job, it was only an $8,000 or $8,500 year payday. That's nothing today. That's correct, but they true up all those numbers, so it's completely fair. Probably the most important piece of the Social Security statement is on page 2, which is on the right-hand side of the screen. And that breaks down monthly benefits if you look for retirement, disability, family, survivors, and Medicare, which is healthcare and retirement. And if you see, you get an option of basically a few different numbers. One, if you were to wait to collect to your full retirement age, which I'm going to do a deep dive in here shortly. If you waited to 70 to collect, and if you collected as early as 62. 62 is the earliest someone can collect Social Security retirement benefits. And it would never make sense to wait beyond age 70 because the benefits stop increasing. But the long and short of it is the longer you wait, the more you receive. So let's talk about when somebody gets that, they get the most of their benefit. So if somebody was born prior to 1937, their full retirement age for Social Security would be 65. If someone was born between 1943 and 1954, their full retirement age would be 66. And then if somebody was born after 1960, their full retirement age would be 67. So if you were born in 1960 or in 2022, and you're a brand new baby, in theory today, your full retirement age would be 67 years of age. Now, a lot of people fall into this 1954 to 1960 gap. For every year beyond 1954, you're going to add 2 months. So let's say someone was born in 1955. Their full retirement age would be 66 and 2 months. Let's say they were born in 1956. Their full retirement age would be 66 and 4 months. So for every year, it's an additional 2 months. That's why you hear people say, they're like, I think my full retirement age is like 66 and a half. And it's like, oh, you were born in 1956. I'm like, yeah, how'd you know? Well, that's because that's what applied to your year. Okay. So in the world of maybe talking to other people, that friends or family who are doing this, no, their situation and when they can collect based on their full retirement age and yours could be very different because it's all based on the year you were born. And then after 1960, for the year of birth, the full retirement age is 67. If somebody collects between age 62, that's the earliest someone can collect, and their full retirement age, whatever year that is based on when they were born, they're going to collect less money. They basically get take a reduced benefit. Now, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of this. The difference in the reduced benefit is about 6% per year. So as an example, if somebody were to collect as early as 62, the good thing is you get money today at 62. The bad thing is you get less money, but you might have to live longer to make up for the fact that you took that money early. All too often, I hear people say, I'm collecting at 62, a bird in the hand, I'm not waiting. If we're strictly talking about how to get the most money out of the system, as long as somebody is relatively healthy, typically waiting makes sense. Not always, I'm not always saying that, but I am saying if we're strictly looking at the financial, how do I get the most money? Waiting is a good deal. Like I said, for every year you wait between 62 and your full retirement age, there is a 6% raise per year you get. Now, let's talk about that, 6%. When was the last time in your career you got a 6% raise? Just putting that out there as a hypothetical. Sometimes people say like, oh, 6%, it's not a big deal. Well, it kind of is, because 6% rate or a raise every year is, it's more significant most people get. Then for every year someone waits to collect between their full retirement age and age 70, they get an 8% compounding rate of return or raise between those years. So it really compounds significantly in those last years. Even if you think about it like this, sometimes I meet with people and they say, I'm going to collect my Social Security, but with what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put it in a CD at the bank. And it's like, well, my experience with CD rates right now is they aren't paying 6 or 8%. They're actually paying like 0.0 crap. So you're talking about giving up that guaranteed rate of return, which is pretty darn attractive. Once again, I am not recommending somebody does one thing or another. My objective is to make an educated decision. Okay, so to put that into a percentage, between age 62 and 66, if somebody were to collect their Social Security at 62, they effectively get about 3/4 of the amount they would have received at age 66. Let me give you a benign example. If at your full retirement age, hypothetically in my example, age 66, your Social Security benefit was going to be $20,000 a year. If that person were to collect at 62, it would be about 75% of that, or $15,000 a year. Conversely, by waiting from their full retirement age to age 70, you can see the significant raise, and that's 8% per year, as I had discussed, that people get. So the long and short of it is, if somebody collects at 62 versus waiting till age 70, they will get just under twice as much money when they collect their benefit at 70. Okay, so let me give you an example. In my example of the 15,000 at 62, that person would collect about 29,000 if they waited till age 70 on an annual basis. It's a big deal. Now, I already hear what you're not saying. Well, Kelly, what if I pass away? You're right. That is definitely a risk, and it's absolutely something that should be evaluated. But statistically, if we're strictly talking about how to make the most money happens by waiting. But that being said, it's a little bit different for every situation. I am certainly not recommending one thing or another. Every circumstance is unique. Now, the other benefit I talked about with Social Security is a spousal benefit. Ready for this? So because you are married to somebody, you actually are eligible for some of their benefits potentially. Let me give you an example. So my mom was a school administrator and my dad was a dairy farmer. My dad always claimed a loss, because that's how the small business world works. As claiming a loss, he never contributed a dime to Social Security because he never, in the IRS's eyes, made any money. But because he and my mother were married for at least 10 years, he was able to collect half or 50% of her benefits, and being a school principal, she had maxed out her benefits. So my dad never never contributed a dime to the system, and gets half of my mom's benefits, which are about $18,000 a year. In the event my mother, the person earning twice as much or $36,000 a year from Social Security, predeceases my father earning less, my dad will pop up or get my mother's full benefits and stop receiving his own. So whereas in the New York State pension, you have to make that election, right? You're choosing the single life or the pop-up or the joint options. That benefit is automatically built into Social Security. Also, brace yourself for this fun fact. If you are divorced, you are still eligible for this. So let's say hypothetically, someone was married maybe a couple times for at least 10 years each. They could go back and choose which ex-spouse they wanted to collect 50% of their Social Security benefits from, and it does not impact the ex-spouse positively or negatively. It has no impact on their benefits. Now, I realize that sounds a little bit crazy, but no one called me to make the rules. I'm just telling you how things work. But if you are somebody who is married for 10 years and divorced, you might be eligible for some additional benefits as a result of that. There's also survivor benefits. So in the event that someone passes away prematurely, the surviving spouse, like I said, will receive the higher of their own or the deceased spouse's benefits. Also, if one of the spouses passed away prior to retirement age, there's additional benefits there for dependents or for the surviving spouse. I'm not going to get into the weeds of that today in the essence of time, but I do want to let you know that there's a good amount there. I also want to give a little bit of a clause here. So fortunately or unfortunately, I deal with a good amount of this because unfortunately people pass away, and this is something that I handle. If you call Social Security, which is, a show because 10,000 people retire every day and they get a lot of calls, they're not really forthcoming with this information. I very recently had a situation where a client of mine passed away at 53. There's a surviving spouse. They were married for more than 10 years. There also is a dependent child with a disability. So the child is over 23. However, it will be a lifelong dependent to the married couple. And with that, we called Social Security because the surviving dependent and the surviving spouse are both eligible for Social Security benefits, but it was very difficult to get Social Security to be very open with what those numbers were. Just be aware, the benefits are there. It's just not a quick process. Now let's get into a little bit of that divorce conversation. So if somebody was married for at least 10 years, so that is definitely the big rule in this divorce scenario. You had to have been married 10 years to be eligible, and you are currently unmarried, and both of the ex-spouse and both ex-spouses are at least 62 and they've been divorced for 2 years, they are eligible still for that spousal benefit. Survivor benefits so what that means is if one ex-spouse passes away, they still had to be married for 10 years, but they could be unmarried or remarried after age 60 and must be at least 60 to receive those benefits. One question that came up was regarding spouses collecting higher benefits. No, one spouse would collect the higher benefit at a time, if I'm understanding the premise of the question correctly. Let's talk about some other factors which impact Social Security. So definitely a big factor in this is how long somebody's going to live. Hey, at the end of the day, the best and most accurate way to know when you should collect your Social Security is dependent on when you know you're going to die. So if you know when you're going to pass away, it's much easier to determine how and when someone should collect their benefits and all of this. Now, I say that obviously kind of kiddingly because, That's something I'm going to guess none of us on this know. But that being said, that's really the only way to know. Beyond that, it's weighing out the pros and the cons. So let's say we've got a male who's 65 years old. There's a 52% chance that that male is going to live until age 87 and a 30% chance that person's going to live to 93. So that's pretty significant. And certainly if we're talking about leveraging Social Security benefits, the 52 and the 30% in my example, had they waited to collect, would have collected significantly more money by waiting. However, the people on the other side of that wouldn't have, and that's where, if you know when you're going to die, it's a much easier way to determine when you should collect. A female at age 65 has a 50% chance living till 89 and a 28% chance living to 96. So once again, you can start to see that sometimes I run into people and they'll say, I'm going to retire at 81. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me how you know that. You're 61 now. And they're like, well, everybody in my family dies in their early 80s. And it's like, everybody? Well, my mom just passed away at 97. Okay, so maybe not everybody, but we have no crystal ball on this. And a couple, so this might shock many of you, if you're married, you're actually statistically going to live longer. I know short term, it does not seem like that would be the case. However, it is based on the data. So a couple age 65, at least one person is most likely going to live till age 93. And then once again, there's a 1 in 4 people would live to age 98. So it's pretty significant as far as the statistics are concerned, as far as the compellingness and nature of how long people are living in today's day and age. So that being said, if you decide, you know what, Kelly, I hear what you're saying. I'm collecting at 62. I'm getting my money today. Heard what you're saying, but just be mindful in that you are limited on your income. You can only make $18,240 a year if you collect your Social Security at 62. Effectively, Social Security says, if you want to collect what we determine early at age 62, that's fine, but you have to be fully retired or on a very part-time basis. If you make over $18,240 a year, Social Security penalizes you 50 cents on every single dollar that you earn. So you got to be kind of fully retired from this thing to work if you're going to collect at 62. Let's talk about taxes, our favorite uncle, Uncle Sam. So long and short of it, taxes for Social Security, there's 3 categories. You pay taxes on none of your Social Security, some of it, or up to 85% of it. Every person in the United States gets 15% of their Social Security benefit tax-free. And it's all income based. What I mean by that is, how do you know what category you fall into? It's dependent on what your income is. Being that most of you or all of you on this call will be a pension earner, you should just assume in this moment, you're probably in the paying tax on most of your Social Security category. Okay. So this is a numerical summary of what I just gave to you, because as you can see, if you're married and you make over $44,000 a year, you're going to pay Social Security, or you're going to pay federal taxes on 85% of your Social Security. However, New York State does not tax Social Security benefits. Similar with New York State pension. New York State pension, you don't pay New York State tax on, you do pay federal. Social Security is very comparable. Okay, benefit collection strategies. So here's some scenarios as far as what could you do? Do we all collect early? Should we wait? Does somebody start early and someone wait? Like I said, I always just ask, and I think the goal is you got to be open-minded about this. Biggest mistake I see people make is they say, Kelly, I'm retiring at X age. And I say, okay, when are you collecting your Social Security? Well, I'm going to collect my Social Security at Y age. Okay, great. Why did you determine that? How did you determine that? Well, all the people I talk to tell me about what to, okay, well, I don't know the science behind that. And I am in the business of making an educated decision. And all the people that we talk to isn't an educated decision. It's a herd mentality. I would advise you to be cautious surrounding the herd mentality. So here we've got a married couple. What if they were to both collect at 62? What if they were collected at their full retirement age or wait until age 70? And they're going to live in my scenario until age 65, and they are both currently 62 years of age. So you can see at age 62, they would collect about $2,200 a month. At 66, it'd go up to $3,000 a month. At 70, it'd be $3,600 a month. And then a hybrid, or one person waits to collect and one collects early. So you can get a gauge on how much more money a month it is going to bring into the household by looking at this. Once again, not making a recommendation here, just being thoughtful about the approach. This, I know there's a lot of numbers on this page, but I actually think it's a pretty effective representation. And if you just, I'm going to give you the high level. If you look down here at the total benefits received, this is a pretty good summary. Both collect at 62. That's how much money they're going to make between 62 and 85. If they both collect at full retirement age, what does that number look like? If they wait till age 70, what does that look like? And if they do the hybrid. So you can see long-term what those numbers add up to based on different times people are going to collect that benefit. Okay, so with that, I am going to stop the presentation. We've got a couple minutes left for any questions that might come up. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask or address, either in the chat or they could unmute themselves? Not all at once. At the very least, what I will do is I will get a transcript of people on the call. I will be reaching out to you. I will send you an email probably by Monday, just to check in to see if you would like to go through this as it relates to your specific situation, so that way, you know, I can see if you would like to do a complimentary conversation about this or something to that effect. I'm sorry, I have no idea how to unmute someone. I don't think I can. Okay, thanks. Rebecca, go ahead.
I had a question, but I figured it out. It was your last panel, but it was about the spousal support for Mary in that example, but that spousal support, not the divorced support piece. So that's what I was confused about. So I figured it out.
Okay, roger that. Yeah, if you have a divorce situation or if you have a deceased spouse situation, there's a lot more variance, and it's really a factorial of concepts that can come in. So certainly just something to be mindful of if that is your situation.
Does the ex person have to have your permission to collect if they retire? So an ex-husband doesn't have to have my permission to put in for those benefits?
No, nope.
Okay.
Thankfully, to their credit, Social Security made it as painless.
Good. Okay.
Nope. For each ex-spouses as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Paul had a question. Do you have to select spousal benefits? In other words, is there an option to not have spousal benefits? There is. That is an option. You can collect either the benefit, half of the benefit of your spouse, or your full benefit. You get whatever is higher of the two. So yes, that is an option, and they always true you up to the accurate or the higher number. So the good news is that it is pretty. It's pretty fair, and it's done intuitively in that situation in Social Security. As far as contact info is concerned, in the chat, I'm going to put my phone number and my email address. But like I said, I am going to reach out to everybody afterwards to see if you would like to set up a time to meet on a complimentary basis. Certainly, you know, I'm here and I'm happy to help if anything comes up, or you could work with your other local representative if you've got someone else in your area that you would prefer. You know, our training and support is very similar. So usually, you know, usually going to one of us is similar to all of us, though that can vary a little bit.
Last question for me. If you have, can you receive spousal or survivor benefits prior to actually filing for your own benefits? So you can start a survivor at 62 and then hold off and do your own at 67?
Oh, you figured out how to make the system work legally to your advantage. That is exactly correct.
I mean, I don't
Or
wish I
better
did.
yet, you could wait to hold off on your benefit until age 70. So I'm not saying you should do one or the other, but I'm
Right.
saying the concept you're talking about is exactly the concept that I would talk about when I met with someone.
Okay. Thank you for that.
All right. Thank you everyone very much for all of your help. Much appreciated. And thank you for your time today. Good luck. And if anybody needs anything or has questions, please feel free to get back to me via email on Monday. Okay. Have a good night or have a good weekend.